All right, today I'm going to talk a little bit about summarizing and paraphrasing. Now, summarizing and paraphrasing are really, really important as we get into research writing because, as I mentioned in class last week, when you start writing a research paper, you don't want every single time you pull in a source and mention it in your paper to be a direct quote. You kind of want to have it to be a mixture of summarizing and paraphrasing and direct quotes. Nothing wrong with using direct quotes. That's great, but we also want to be using some summarizing and paraphrasing. So summarizing is taking a long genre and condensing it down in your own words while still maintaining the overall message. It will be shorter than the original passage. So you might do like a summary of a paragraph or a section of an article, and maybe even the whole article, just kind of giving the main idea of that article, but it will be shorter. Paraphrasing is taking a passage or quote and rephrasing it in your own words, and it will usually be around the same length as the original passage. It might be a hair shorter, a hair longer, but it will be about the same length. And you'll do that a lot with like quotes from, like if there's like a specific quote that you're wanting to use, but maybe switching it around in your own words, that's usually when you'll paraphrase. So let's take a look at this paragraph. On Valentine's Day is not always a happy day for some. In 2019, the El Paso Zoo started a new tradition called Quit Bugging Me. Anyone can claim a Madagascar hissing cockroach, name it after an ex-love, and it will be fed to one of the resident meerkats. These feedings will be streamed on February 13th through 14th. Donations are not required, but will be appreciated. That's a true story. You can do that if you want to, if you feel so inclined. So let's summarize it. So first of all, when you're summarizing a paragraph, break it down into what you feel are the most important elements of the paragraph. So the year and time and date, like if there's something like that, that might be something that you want to take note of. So in this case, Valentine's Day 2019, and right around Valentine's Day is when they feed those poor cockroaches to the meerkats. Who is it? The El Paso Zoo. That's kind of important to know. What's happening? So the Madagascar hissing is the Quit Bugging Me with the Madagascar hissing cockroaches named after ex-loves fed to the meerkats. So those are probably the most important elements of this summary. So now that we've identified those elements, let's put it in our own words. So this is kind of what I came up with, and you can kind of come up with it might look different. Summaries don't necessarily always look exactly the same, but as long as they have the general idea, then it works. So this is a summary I came up with. A few years ago, a zoo in Texas started feeding cockroaches named after exes to their meerkats. People can pick a roach and watch it meet its end on the zoo's website on Valentine's Day. So notice, like, I did change a few things. Like, instead of saying the El Paso Zoo, I said a zoo in Texas. I mean, you don't necessarily have to know that specific, but if I did want to put El Paso Zoo, it would have been fine. Some people think that you have to change every single word, but sometimes you can't. You know, if it's something really identifying, you can't do that. But in this case, I felt like Texas would be an appropriate substitution. Like I did with Valentine's Day here. So I did mention Valentine's Day. I didn't have to change it. I could have, but again, you don't have to change every single word. Sometimes students think that when they're summarizing, every single word must be changed or it's wrong. And that's not the case. You can keep a few things from the original passage. So, but a few things that I did change is, so 2019, I said a few years ago. We didn't necessarily need to know the specific date. Instead of saying Madagascar hissing cockroaches, I just condensed it down to cockroaches. Instead of ex-love, I just said exes. Instead of saying it would be streamed, I say it could be on the zoo's website. So, I just changed a few little identifying things in there, but overall the message is the same. You can buy a cockroach and watch a meerkat eat it. Named after your love on Valentine's Day, or ex-love rather. So that is summarizing. And notice that it's a lot shorter. It's not the same length. It's about half the size of the original paragraph. And with the summary, that's what you're going to be looking for. So yeah, as long as the general idea is captured, that's what we're going to be looking for. Now, paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is a little bit more exact. It'll have more information than a summary. And again, it will usually be as long as the original text. Or spoken phrases if it's coming from an interview. So one thing to note, though, it's sometimes with paraphrasing, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the exact order as the information is presented in the paragraph. But for our sample today, I am going to show you doing it in the exact order. It's the easiest. And we'll kind of get into how we can maybe not have it in the exact order in future examples, or possibly in class during our meeting. So what I did here, so the very first sentence is Valentine's Day is not always a happy day for some. I changed it to some people find February 14th a little depressing. So, because it is. Valentine's Day is not always a happy day for everyone. But instead of saying Valentine's Day, I changed it to the actual date. So, for the next line in 2019, the El Paso Zoo started a new tradition called Quit Bugging Me. I changed it to, a few years ago, a zoo in El Paso. So I switched the kind of title of the zoo around a little bit. Created Quit Bugging Me. Now that's the name of an event and you really can't change the name of it. So if it's something specific like that, it's perfectly fine to keep it the same. You can't change that name. But if you were wanting to find out where it was from, instead of saying the El Paso Zoo, which is the official name of the zoo, you can go, oh, it's a zoo in El Paso. I can look that up. They can still find that information. So anyone can claim a Madagascar hissing cockroach. Say that 5 times fast. It's kind of difficult. Name it after an ex-love and it will be fed to one of the meerkats. That became people can name a roach after an ex-partner and it will become a meal for one of the zoo's meerkats. Again, I kept meerkats because it's the same. Condense Madagascar hissing cockroach down to just roach. People are going to know what that means. They don't necessarily have to know the specific species of the roach to get the idea. Ex-love became ex-partner. So I just went through and changed some of those words around so that way it was more in my own words. Okay, these feedings will be streamed on February 13th through 14th. Became mealtime will be streamed both on and the day before Valentine and the day of. Oh, sorry, I messed that up. Mealtime will be streamed both on the day before and the day of Valentine's Day. That's a little wordy. I might change it just a little bit, but as I said, just for the example purposes, the meaning's across. So it'll be streamed right around Valentine's Day. So February 13th and 14th became Valentine's Day. Kind of switched that around. So instead of feedings, it's mealtime. Streaming, I guess I could have changed that to broadcasting, but that's just to go to show you it doesn't have to be the exact wording of it for it to make sense. Okay, last sentence, donations are not required but will be appreciated. A monetary contribution is not necessary but would be welcome. Again, just kind of put it in my own words. So one thing I want you to notice here is that the paragraphs are about the same length. My paraphrased paragraph is just a little bit longer. I would probably go and tweak it just a little bit, maybe make a few changes. It's not perfect, but again, what I'm trying to show you here is the basics of paraphrasing. You know, they don't necessarily have to be 100% perfect when we're working on them, when they're in progress. But this is just to go to show you how you can take a paragraph, and what I would suggest doing is taking it sentence at a time and just rephrasing each sentence. That is the simplest way to do it. Now, you probably won't be paraphrasing a lot of paragraphs in your research papers. As I said, usually paraphrases are 1 to 2 sentences, maybe a direct quote. So you probably won't be doing full paragraphs, but it's good to know how to do it and taking it that 1 sentence at a time. As I said, we'll be discussing summarizing and paraphrasing more in depth in class. And so I look forward to working on that with you.